On January 29, 2022, first responders arrived at a home in Canton, Massachusetts, during a blinding blizzard. Lying in the snowbank was John O'Keefe, a 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department. Standing nearby was his girlfriend, Karen Reed. She was hysterical and, according to witnesses, was heard repeatedly screaming, "I hit him." For the state police, the initial evidence painted a straightforward picture. Between the shattered taillight on Reed's SUV and the heavy amount of alcohol consumed that night, they processed the scene as a tragic drunk driving collision. To believe Karen Reed was innocent, a jury would have to accept a difficult premise, that almost every law enforcement officer who stepped onto that lawn was actively lying. The timeline tracked them drunking at the Waterfall Bar before driving to Brian Albert's house. Forensic tests estimated Reed's blood alcohol between 0.13 and 0.29, and police recovered her shattered taillight. Prosecutors also played 8 aggressive voicemails of Reed shouting at O'Keefe. Karen Reed was charged with the second-degree murder of a veteran officer, but as the case went to trial, she became the center of a polarizing public movement. The state's case began to fracture when Reed's defense team introduced a third-party culprit theory, alleging O'Keefe was actually beaten to death inside the house and moved to the lawn to cover up police involvement. The defense's perspective relied on a different timeline, one where O'Keefe never died in the snow, but was instead dragged outside after a violent altercation inside the house. Federal crash reconstruction experts analyzed the trauma to O'Keefe's body and found it inconsistent with a vehicle strike. A typical SUV impact at 24 miles per hour would usually cause lower body fractures or significant bruising, neither of which were present. Instead, medical testimony from Dr. Marie Russell pointed to the scratches on O'Keefe's arm. She told the jury the geometry of those wounds matched the teeth and claws of a dog, not a shattered taillight. The defense then targeted how the evidence was handled. They revealed that Canton police had collected blood-stained snow using red plastic Solo cups and stored them in ordinary grocery bags. By focusing on the unsecured crime scene and the bizarre collection methods, the defense aimed to shatter the jury's trust in the basic facts of the investigation. The defense then turned to the lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor. They highlighted his undisclosed personal ties to the family that owned the home where O'Keefe was found. On the witness stand, Proctor was forced to read misogynistic text messages sent to his friends regarding Reed while actively investigating the murder. Proctor's conduct helped trigger a federal probe into the investigation itself, resulting in administrative shifts and the suspension of state police officials. Outside the courthouse, the trial became a media circus. Bloggers like Aidan Kearney confronted witnesses and amplified the cover-up theory to a growing digital audience. The defense effectively turned the inquiry into Karen Reed's actions into a referendum on police conduct. After the first trial ended in a hung jury in 2024, the state pushed forward with a second, highly pressurized retrial in early 2025. In June 2025, after 4 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Reed was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter, but guilty of operating under the influence. The acquittal was followed by professional consequences for the investigators. Michael Proctor was fired from the state police, and several Canton officers involved in the case were placed on leave or suspended. The legal fallout remains. Reed faces probation, millions in legal fees, and ongoing civil lawsuits that will likely keep the town of Canton in court for years. The tragedy of the case is that when law enforcement negligence compromises an investigation, it prevents a grieving family from finding closure and leaves a community divided.